Hello everyone, it's Exo Man and Farm Girl,
Hi everyone.
and today we are fortunate enough to be joined by our generous and gracious neighbor, Sherry.
Hey everybody.
Sherry is a licensed hospice nurse, and she has agreed to help us with some understanding of the whole death and dying process and hospice care.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we have some questions, and we know most
we
people
grilled
have
her the
questions.
other day. And
Yeah.
Lots of great information.
Yeah.
So I guess let's start by asking you what a hospice nurse is and how you came to be a hospice nurse. What does it take, etc.
Good question. My hospice journey actually started in 1996, I want to say, when my dad had pancreatic cancer.
Oh.
And the hospice nurse that came and took care of him got him comfortable, and then she focused on us to get us comfortable and to help us accept the fact that Daddy wasn't going to be there much longer.
Hmm.
And she and I just really connected, and I just made up my mind that if it ever was I ever able to give back, that's what I wanted to do.
So you entered the profession for all the right reasons, it sounds like. to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I entered the profession to help families and patients to accept their terminal diagnosis,
Yeah.
because in order to qualify for hospice, you have to have a terminal diagnosis,
Mhm.
and to accept that and to come to some kind of terms with the fact that your loved one is not going to be here much longer,
Yeah.
and to keep them comfortable for the end of the
Well-
time they have left.
That I have been for many years woefully ignorant of the whole hospice environment and profession.
Like what exactly?
Tell us
it is.
exactly what, if someone knows nothing of hospice, what is hospice? Where does it occur? Who pays for it, etc.?
Okay, everyone that has any kind of insurance has a hospice benefit. Medicare has a hospice benefit, Medicaid, commercial insurance, veterans, all of them have a hospice benefit. But if you do not have insurance of any kind, we still take care of you. We still provide the same level of care, the same quality of care as we would with someone that was fully insured.
I see.
So we do not discriminate against anyone having hospice is for everyone that has a terminal illness. Hospice, we take care of the patient where they are. If they're in a facility, if they're at home. I even had a gentleman in Washington that I took care of in a camper.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
a
if I
camper.
have no money, you'll come to my camper, a hospice nurse. I could see that happen.
And is it funded by donations? Like
We do
Private.
we do have donations. A lot of families, when it's all said and done, whatever hospice agency has taken care of you, the family will ask that neighbors, friends, relatives make donations to that hospice. And it sets up a foundation that, we can do a lot of things with that. It's not just for the hospice patients, it's for even employees of
So is
the
there,
hospice.
but is there, I think what Jen was asking, is there a general fund? Is there a .com that people go to give money in general, or no, it's not?
I think you can get, not a general fund, you can
Okay.
go to a particular agency and do that.
I see.
Yeah. They are, we don't show any difference in the level of care that we provide, of course,
Mhm.
to anybody, or the medicines that are prescribed, or the DME. And DME, for those that don't know, is durable medical equipment that the patient may need, a hospital bed, a walker, a wheelchair, oxygen, nutritional supplements, incontinence supplies, all of those things are.
So the family and those dying have no worries. As far
No,
as paying.
that is what our main goal is that the family and the patient does not have to have one less stress of
Right,
worry of
right.
where they're going to get all of these things.
Okay, so now I'm getting an idea of what hospice is. What are some of the most common misconceptions about what it is that you might understand?
Okay, it's a lot of myths with hospice, a lot of myths. They're saying that, one of the main myths is it's very expensive. No, it's not. I've just explained all
Right,
that.
Okay.
yeah.
It's not expensive at all.
That's
Are there
for the
people
family.
dying without hospice who
Oh,
could have it?
absolutely. Absolutely. It happens all the time.
That's why we want to have these questions answered.
Yes,
It's
it
very important to
happens
know.
all the time.
They just assume they can't afford it.
Exactly.
That's for rich people.
Exactly. And in hospice, people refer to it as the H word because they're scared of it.
So there's a
Or
stigma.
Yeah.
you're scared of the
That
D
means
word.
because you're coming to take them or something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think we come in with all the medicines, we dope the family member up, and they'll just pass. And that's not what we do at all. I mean, we come in and sure, if you're in pain, we're going to get your pain under control, because if we don't, we're not doing our job.
Well, yeah, that's
Right.
very comforting to know.
We're
But
not
you're
doing
not,
our
but
job.
you're not just knocking us out and being done with us. You're
No, no.
comforting. Yeah.
We come in. We like to get a referral earlier than later, because if you get it too late, you don't have time to
Prepare.
Process
prepare
everything,
everybody
yeah.
and to establish that rapport with the family and the patients.
Right.
And you want to get to know them, and you want to know what their likes and dislikes and what their life was like before they got sick. That kind of thing.
And their relationships, I guess, with those who are around.
Yes, yes. And most hospices have a team. They have the nurse. They have an aide that can provide personal care for the patient. They have a social worker. They have a chaplain that can provide spiritual support, of course. They have a volunteer that can come in, and just so that the family can go to the grocery store, or go pick up meds, or go get their hair
things
cut,
done.
get a manicure,
Mhm.
whatever, just to provide additional support.
Well, when
for
you
that
when you
family.
think about all of what you do as a hospice nurse, are there a few things that stand out as the most valuable things that a hospice nurse can offer to the dying or their family?
The most valuable thing that a hospice nurse can offer is her time, her compassion, her empathy.
Yeah, that's what we need then.
Yeah. I
So-
mean,
That's why you're perfect for this.
I would agree.
Thank you.
She's awesome.
I would say if my time comes, I wish you would be there, but Jen would probably say, no, your time will come.
Yeah, if, not if.
I'll be here, buddy. I might be 80 years. I hope I'll be 80 years old
Yeah.
or older, but I'll be here.
So what do you think are the biggest misconceptions that the general public have about the death and dying process?
I think that, first of all, they think they have to wait until the next to the last breath is being drawn. I think that they think they have to be a DNR, and by DNR I mean do not resuscitate. They do not. I think that they think that they have to go to a place. They think hospice is a place.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
hospice. There are hospice houses and hospice facilities,
Right.
but like I said, wherever you are is where we'll
That's
take
so
care
great.
of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people think it's very expensive, and it's not at all. They are the most, and the over medicating.
Yeah,
I think all of that is.
they just assume
They just
you
assume,
over-medicate.
yeah. And I think that they also assume that they're not going to be able to come off hospice once you're on hospice, and that is so not true. A lot of times with our services, you'll get better, believe it or not.
Wow.
Because especially if it's, and another thing that
Even though you need to be dying to be there,
to have a
some
terminal
have
diagnosis.
a
Yeah.
terminal. Oh, thank you for
Yeah.
that. You have to have a terminal diagnosis, but some people actually,
They get
Come
better.
through.
I call it they graduate from hospice.
that is wonderful to know.
Because,
Yes.
because
that,
they get
that
pampered
should be
so much.
reassuring to
It
everybody.
should be
It
very
should be-
reassuring.
yeah.
Because, and it doesn't just have to be cancer. You could have COPD, congestive heart failure.
My mother died of both of those.
Yes.
Yeah.
You could have a stroke, you know, any of the Alzheimer's, dementia, you know, all of that.
ALS.
Or all ALS, yeah. And a lot of times with COPD and congestive heart failure, especially, they'll get better because we're managing their meds.
Right.
You know, somebody that they go to the doctor and they get these meds, and they go to the pulmonologist and they get these meds, and they go to the cardiologist and they get these meds, and they don't know what to do.
Right.
So we come in, we help manage their meds, and all of a sudden they're better. You know, they're able to get out of the house.
They're more properly medicated.
Yes.
Ah.
Because we can do the little Medi planners. I know y'all have seen those, and we can do those to manage their meds and say, okay, you take these in the morning, these at night, these if you're having pain or shortness of breath. And the next thing you know, they're getting better, and we're able to say, well, you know, right now you're doing so much better, we can't really say that you're terminal anymore.
Wow.
That's
Wow,
cool.
what a thing to tell them.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we can't guarantee anybody that.
No, but
that is sure not something that I never thought about.
yeah.
And then
Wonderful.
they're probably happier for the rest of their life because they're not worried
Yeah.
about the end of
Yeah.
life process.
And then what we can do is, of course, we all know that if you do have congestive heart failure or COPD or any of those that I've named, you are eventually going to, it's going to come back, you know.
Mhm.
And at
We
that
have- we
point,
have
they
to
call
die.
us
We
back.
have to pass
You have
eventually.
to pass of something,
Yeah.
yeah. One little story I'll tell, I had a patient that had brain cancer, and he got better. I mean, he got better,
Remission.
remission or
Wow.
whatever. But
Yeah.
anyway, I go over there, it was early spring, and I go to do my visit, and I noticed the ladder propped up beside his house. I said, why is that ladder there? Oh, one thing I didn't tell y'all, I'm the bossy nurse. So,
I can't see that. I can't
Anyway.
see. You're so sweet.
But take charge.
yeah.
But you take
Take
charge
charge,
when you're
yeah.
when
Yeah.
you're working.
Yeah.
Sure.
Anyway, I said, well, why is that ladder propped up beside your house? And he laughed and he said, I cleaned my gutters today. I said, you know that's not a hospice patient, right?
Yeah.
So we ended up having to discharge him, and but he came back on service when he did get very sick again,
Yeah.
and we took care of him till the end. So,
Wow.
but it's funny little stories like that
Yeah.
Yeah.
every hospice nurse has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask you more about that, but you mentioned DNR.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't understand that. It's a do not resuscitate wish. In other words, I wish to pass when it is my time.
Mm-hmm.
My mother did not have one, and it made for a very miserable end. And she was very confused about whether or not she would
Because
wanted
she
it
was afraid.
because of fear.
Yeah.
Fear of dying. And I pleaded with her to be very careful and think this through. And she finally, when she died, she was at that stage where she didn't have it, and I had to fight just to let her go. So what are your thoughts on that? Would you care to share how you feel about DNR?
I would be glad to share that. I think everyone after a certain age should have their advance directives in place. I think you should have a power of attorney, a healthcare power of attorney, and they can be the same person. And you should have a living will, where you're in your sound mind and body can say what you want.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what state do you want to be in before you don't want to be hooked up to machines, you don't want to have a
Right.
feeding tube, all of that. And that living will, then the son does not have to make the decision
Right.
when that time comes.
Yeah.
You know, and the living will can let us know if they want to be or do not resuscitate. And at that point, we would get the living will is drawn up through an attorney's office, or it's done online and you can have it notarized. A DNR, where you put the little orange stop sign in the home, has to be gotten from a doctor. So, but if you have the living will and you're in a vegetative state, then the doctor can look at the living will and say, okay, this person wants to be a DNR. Or you can tell the family, you know, they signed up saying that they wanted nothing done. So, yeah. And because under the laws of North Carolina, and I know it's probably a lot of different states watching this, if you are not a DNR, if you're not a do not resuscitate, and you stop breathing and your heart stops, and somebody calls 911 instead of calling your hospice nurse, and that's not unusual for that to happen because at that moment,
and then they bring you right back.
Yeah, and then paramedics are going to come in and they're going to start doing chest compressions and they're going to intubate you if you cannot produce that what we call stop sign.
Yeah.
So
that's good to know. Very important.
And I've done CPR on people. It is not pleasant.
So a lot of times I imagine if this is the case, people have to die twice.
Exactly. And if a person, the only time a medical person is going to do CPR on a person is if they have assessed and you don't have a pulse. Okay, so they're going to bring you back. They're going to bring you back with a pulse, but you only have like a 8% chance of surviving. And if you've been laying there for 20 minutes with no oxygen to your brain, you know,
then it's a worse state
it's a worse
of affairs,
scenario.
and then you pass.
That's awful.
But you nailed it when you said you have to die twice.
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah, man. Things that we don't think about.
And we usually don't want to think about it, but it's something that we do need to think about.
It's not something that our culture likes to talk about, and it's not. It used to be it's something that we discussed as families, and now we want to make it more sanitary and tidy and sweep it under the rug. Do you feel like that?
Oh yes, we do.
Do you don't you feel like other cultures handle what death is about better than we do? Some cultures.
Some cultures do. Yeah.
What do you think of fear of death? What are your thoughts on that? I say, well, I'm kind of afraid of death because I like to be honest. I don't want to be macho and misleading. And Jen says, you're not really afraid of death. You're just I'm uncertain. There's an uncertainty to it.
He just doesn't want the fun to end.
The end of the game thing.
Yeah, he doesn't want it to be so final.
And I'm always one of those people that I got to get up in the morning and I got this and this and this and this to do. And then I feel like that my honey-do list will be interrupted or something.
And it
definitely will.
It will.
Well,
Till the next time.
What is fear of death? And
Fear of death, I think, is the unknown, just not knowing what to expect. You know, none of us have ever done it.
Exactly.
So,
we don't get to practice.
We don't get to practice it.
But it's generally not a painful thing,
Oh,
right?
no,
for
no.
people?
That is my
Especially in
job.
hospice, yeah.
That is my job as a hospice nurse, is to keep it as pain-free and as comfortable and as easy for the family and the patient, of course, as possible. You know, I mean, that if I feel like, in my experience, I've been doing this since 2009. In my experience, if I have a patient that has a painful, stressful death, I've not done my job like I should have.
Right.
Yeah.
And I take it very personal. And I have had them that did that, you know, because you have to also, not only do you have to be comfortable, but you have to be at the right place in your mind.
Right. You have to be
go
calm and accepting.
Yes. And a lot of times what happens is that the family members have not given that person permission to go.
Yep.
To release that person.
I could see
And that person is holding on, and a lot of times they'll hold on for the right person to get there, to get to the house. I've seen that many times.
Wow.
But mainly it's because that person has not said, Dad, it's okay, we'll be okay, we'll take care of Mom. They've not heard that. Even if they're laying there just unresponsive, the hearing is the last sense that leaves the body.
And
The last sense that
I
leaves the
imagine
body.
this sounds to me like this might be one of the important reasons that these people are properly pain medicated, so that they're not just a vegetable and the process can't happen naturally.
Yes.
So that
Exactly.
it's a thought process.
Yeah.
as
Oh,
well as
yeah.
The
Yeah.
ending of body functions, right?
Yes. And, but it's mainly just so important that the family be involved and know what's going on and know that, you need to
Let them go.
let them go, And it needs to be, I've seen this many times too, it needs to be quiet. It doesn't need to be a lot of
Light and action.
going on in the room. It needs to be kind of calm and peaceful. You have their kind of music playing. I've had people with heavy metal playing, and I've had people, and he was a 70-year-old.
That's great.
And I've had people with gospel music playing,
And
like 40s music, just whatever is their kind of music.
Yes.
Is, and it's different ways for different people. I've done a lot of different cultures. I moved here from a small rural area, and there was an area there with some American Indians there, and they were totally different. They, and so you'll see different cultures do things different ways. But it's a very rewarding career. It's very
intense, I'm sure.
It's tense. Yes, it's
Yeah.
very intense.
That was one of my questions. How does a hospice nurse
Take care of herself.
exactly? You
Yeah.
deal with
Mentally,
heartache
Yeah.
and pain and on a daily basis. How do you not get depressed and overwhelmed? Is there a technique or?
Well, you do get depressed. You do shed a lot of tears. You hurt just like they hurt at times. You feel like you do anyway. But then you have to have that place where you put that, and you have to take care of yourself. You get massages. You you swing on your dock and you sit there.
Exactly.
Yeah. You read a good book.
Shake it off.
Yeah, shake it off. Shake it off. Yeah. Read a good book.
But it's not. I guess it's a different kind of thing than having PSTD from being in a war zone.
No,
Oh
just
yeah,
have
it's
to have
totally
some
different.
self-care.
It's more of a
That is-
spiritual up
Yeah.
and down thing, I
It
guess.
is. It is, and it's very, as I said, it's very rewarding because you can see, like if you get them early enough, you can see how they are accepting of you, and you can see where the families are beginning to accept what's happening. And I've even had families say, I don't want this to go on much longer, because they'll get to the point where they're not eating, they're not drinking, and that's hard
No
for the
quality
families.
of life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to watch.
And so we're more focused on the quality at the end of life versus the quantity.
The quantity of
Yes,
life.
yes. And just keeping them as comfortable as we can. And, and I tell them, when they get to that point that they won't eat anymore, that's just nature's way of preparing us for what's happening,
Yeah. Lots to think about.
It
Wow.
is.
I'm so glad that we have had this time to talk to you. Are there any other things you want to share?
I would like to read a poem, if you don't mind.
I'd love it.
Okay. I have shared this poem. I have spoken several times at different civic organizations, and I've read this poem. I've also shared it with family members, and I'd like to share it with you all.
Okay.
Gone from my sight, I am standing upon the seashore, a ship at my side. Spreads her white sails to the moving breeze and starts for the blue ocean. She is an object of beauty and strength. I stand and watch her until at length she hangs like a speck of white cloud just where the sea and the sky come to mingle with each other. Then someone at my side says, "There she's gone." Gone where? Gone from my sight, that is all. She is just as large in mast and hull and spar as she was when she left my side. And she is just as able to bear her load of living freight to her destined port. Her diminished size is in me, not in her. And just at the moment when someone says, "There she is gone," there are other eyes watching her coming, and other voices ready to take up the glad shout. "Here she comes!" And that is dying. Thank you.
That's beautiful.
That was awesome.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. What a lovely, lovely
Yeah, I really like that.
piece of prose. I love it.
Mhm.
Wow. Well, are there places, are there ways that people can find information other than the information that you give us here? Are you researching books? or
Yeah,
things
I
that
mean,
you recommend?
There's a lot of books that are written. Unfortunately, I really can't think of them right now.
But I'm sure if you did a
But,
Google search,
but you
there'd
do a
probably be
Google search and
for the dying process,
yeah, dying
hospice.
process, yes,
Mhm.
and you will find, and you can just Google agencies in the area that you're in,
Mhm.
you know, and I hope that you get the right agency and get the proper care. That's my only thing. That is really my one of my
Pet peeves.
pet peeves. Yes, is for somebody not to get the right care.
I
Yeah.
truly wish I had known you when my mother was going
I
down
do
this
Yeah,
path.
me
Because
too.
we
and
would
I
have
with
brought her home. We could have brought her home
Mm.
It was tough.
and kept her comfortable.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you. Will you join us
Yeah,
again if we have
thank
any
you.
other questions?
I will. I'll be glad
we really
Yeah, maybe we might
appreciate
get
it.
more questions.
I
Yeah, I
truly,
need a tissue.
feel I feel enlightened, Sherry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me to do this.